Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world of thick aromas, velvet cushions, and the clink of porcelain cups, then just as quickly ducking into shadow as the authorities arrive. We're talking about a time when drinking coffee wasn't just a morning habit, it was a rebellion, a risk, a ritual. You're strolling through the early streets of Ottoman Istanbul. It's just past dawn, but already the city hums. Seagulls cry over the domes of mosques. Vendors unload figs and copper goods onto wooden carts. The scent of bread, warm, sesame-topped, mingles with the sharper bite of roasted beans drifting out from somewhere, someone. You follow that smell like a thread, drawn through twisting alleys and spice-stained corners. Then, just as you turn the bend, nothing. The scent disappears. A shutter closes. A whisper, not here, not now, because tonight you've arrived at the very moment when coffee was made illegal. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It all began, ironically, with love. Not romantic love necessarily, but love of the brew. Coffee made its way into the Ottoman Empire in the 16th century, likely through trade with Yemen. From the port of Mocha, yes, that's a real place, to the hands of Sufi mystics who used it to stay alert during long night prayers. And it spread fast. By the time you're padding softly through the cobblestones of late 1500s Istanbul, coffee houses, called kahvehan, are everywhere, lit by lanterns, packed with cushions, full of poets, gossipers, backgammon players, and big ideas. And this wasn't just idle chatter. Coffee houses were where men, especially urban literate men, discussed politics, philosophy, poetry, everything from war rumors to love notes. That, of course, made the empire nervous. Enter Sultan Murad IV. He's young, strict, and absolutely fed up with what he sees as the empire's moral decline. Drunkenness, public disorder, too much talk. He wants to restore discipline, obedience, and above all, silence in the streets. And coffee? It wasn't just a beverage anymore. It was a symbol, a stimulant, a social glue that bound together every loud-mouthed critic with an audience. So Murad does the unthinkable. He bans it. At first it's just a warning, then comes the actual law. Then, as the scent of rebellion proves harder to erase than coffee itself, comes the crackdown. Historians still argue whether Murad's enforcement methods were as extreme as some accounts claim. There are stories, grim ones, of executions for repeat coffee offenders, secret police hiding in dark corners of cafés, even the Sultan himself patrolling the city in disguise to catch someone mid-sip. Is all of it true? Maybe not. But the fear? Very real. You can imagine the scene. A man sipping quietly in a dim cafe. He hears a creak. Footsteps on the stone. Everyone freezes. Cups vanish under cushions. The backgammon board disappears beneath the carpet. The lantern flickers. The room goes still. And when the door opens, it's just a cat. Slipping in, tail high, like it owns the place. You exhale. Everyone does. But that tension, the mix of love and risk, that's what defines this chapter of coffee's journey. You don't just drink anymore. You conspire to drink. And still, people came. The cafés, though quieter, persisted. The baristas whispered. The customers leaned in close. The city, so full of rules, still found ways to simmer, all for a bitter black cup of something just this side of defiance. You step softly now, deeper, into the alleys behind Istanbul's Grand Bazaar. The call to prayer has ended, but the city hasn't slept. Somewhere nearby, a door creaks open just enough to let the scent out. a swirl of cardamom, cloves, and roasted bean. Someone inside is grinding coffee by hand, slowly, rhythmically, the way their grandmother taught them. But you can't just walk in. Not anymore. After the Sultan's decree, drinking coffee became an act of disobedience. But Ottomans, never short on creativity, didn't just stop drinking. They got smarter about how they did it. You duck behind a stall and watch as a man strolls by holding what looks like a tea thermos. You wouldn't think twice, unless you noticed the lid was twice as thick and the cup never clinked. Inside, coffee, hidden. The secret cafés didn't vanish. They just went underground. Some disguised themselves as tailoring shops or bookbinders. Others operated behind bathhouses or in private homes, signaled by a lantern in the window or the faintest aroma trailing through a slit in the shutter. You push open a back door and enter a dim room. A woman leans over a stove, heating thick black liquid in a small cezve, the long-handled copper pot used to make Turkish coffee. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. The rules in these cafés were different. No names, no loud voices, no lingering glances at the door. But even with the silence, there's a hum beneath it all. An electric connection between strangers bound by caffeine and secrecy. And just like that, the café becomes more than a place to drink. It becomes a theater of resistance. Historians still argue whether the Sultan's ban was purely moralistic or whether it had more to do with power. After all, coffee houses weren't just places to sip, they were places to plot. Inside those walls, ideas brewed just as strong as the coffee, stories were swapped, satirical poems whispered, grievances aired. You glance around. In the corner, someone sketches a caricature of a royal figure with a nose like a peppermill. Another man quotes a Persian proverb, but twists the last line, subtle but unmistakably mocking the vizier. The woman at the stove pours the brew slowly into small porcelain cups, careful not to disturb the foam. Foam matters here. A good foam means a good pour, and a good pour is a sign of respect. You take the cup in both hands. It's hot, bitter, earthy. It tastes like smoke and courage. No one speaks. But across the table, someone raises an eyebrow, an invitation. They lean closer. Did you hear what happened in Galata? You sip, you listen. The city murmurs through this room, even while its streets stay silent. To the government, these places were dangerous, subversive, potential powder kegs. But to the people, they were sanctuary, a place to be alert, awake, a place where minds sharpened just as the coffee did. And if someone was caught, punishments varied. Some were beaten, others fined. A few were imprisoned for repeat offenses. But the cafe owners knew the drill. They had hiding spots, false walls, trapdoors, coffee pots that could be swapped for soup kettles in seconds. A favorite trick? Coffee disguised as medicinal broth. Just add a few herbs, change the cup, and suddenly your rebellious brew becomes a health tonic, perfectly legal. You can almost hear it now. Oh no, officer, we're treating a chest cough. And maybe they were. Or maybe they were just curing the ache of silence, because when the empire tried to take away the cafe, it forgot one thing. It wasn't just about the drink. It was about what came with it. Conversation, connection, quiet courage. The clink of cup on saucer becomes its own kind of protest, and every careful pour becomes a gentle refusal to be told what not to love. You sip again, and the cafe dims around you, warmed by secrets and steam. You stay a little longer than you meant to. It's easy to lose time in places like this. The coffee keeps your mind sharp, but the atmosphere softens the edges of the day. The cafe has quieted. Outside, the night settles over Istanbul like a silk curtain. Inside your cup sits empty, the fine grounds thick at the bottom. Someone nearby is quietly turning them over, reading shapes. A bird, a sword, a crescent. The future hides in the sediment, or so they say. You think back to earlier, how fast the fear spread when the ban was announced, and how quickly the people answered with boldness disguised as routine. Even as the empire tightened its grip, something kept slipping through its fingers. That something was coffee. And more than that, what coffee stood for. Historians still debate whether the bans were truly about caffeine. Was Murad IV genuinely afraid of moral decay? Or was he more afraid of conversation, of connection, of the way a cup could bring together merchant and mason, poet and porter, each one given space to speak? The Sultan may have issued the decree, but the people wrote their own response, one cup at a time. There's a story from the 17th century, probably exaggerated but too delightful to ignore. An informant attempts to report a secret coffee house. He stumbles in, certain he'll catch someone mid-sip. But instead, he finds a carpet dealer, a thread merchant, and a young boy teaching a parrot to recite verses from the Quran. No coffee in sight, not a cup, not a bean. As the informant leaves, empty-handed, the parrot squawks, "Try again after dark." You smile at that. Whether it happened or not, the story's true in spirit. Because coffee became more than a drink. It became a signal, a password, a ritual you couldn't crush with laws or fear. And eventually, the ban faded, quietly. Not because it was overturned in some dramatic proclamation. Number It simply stopped working. People kept brewing. And over time, even the authorities had to admit what was obvious. The empire wasn't running on oil or gold or wheat. It was running on beans. Today, you can still find cafés in Istanbul that trace their roots to those banned days. Some bear no signs. Others carry ancient copper pots blackened by thousands of midnight brews. The walls might be new, but the spirit remains. Talk softly, pour slowly, keep listening. And maybe that's the real reason coffee endured, not because it kept people awake, but because it helped them feel awake, connected, alive, defiant in a quiet, dignified way. You rise from the cushion. The cafe has begun to empty. Your cup is cool now, forgotten, but not discarded. You place it gently on the saucer and step out into the narrow alley. Above you, the stars flicker like the city's lanterns. Somewhere, a cat knocks over something small, and someone curses gently in the dark. You inhale deeply. The air carries spice, dust, and the fading trace of roasted bean. And for a moment, you realize rebellion can be loud, but it can also be warm, brewed slowly and sipped in silence. A final story lingers in your thoughts, of a shopkeeper who during the ban sold ink in small porcelain cups. It was thick, black, slightly bitter, and the people drank it quietly, then left with lips stained and eyes bright. Funny thing is, no one ever bought a pen. The alley is quiet now. The lamps have gone dim. The city exhales around you soft and slow. You walk without hurry, each step softer than the last, the stone still warm beneath your feet. Somewhere behind a shuttered door, another cup is poured. Someone leans closer to a friend. A whispered joke, a knowing smile. The sound of coffee, faint but defiant, echoes in a place beyond reach. You carry the stories with you, the banned cafes, the coated lanterns, the muddy footprints of resistance brewed in copper pots. You remember the warmth of your cup, the hushed clink of saucer on wood, the way no law ever quite stopped a craving for connection. And now you settle into rest. The night holds you gently. No voices, no footsteps, just the hum of the world as it turns, still spinning, still steeping. Let your thoughts drift like steam from a fresh pour. Let your breath slow, long, and even. Let the silence stretch like a dark roast poured slowly in the dark. You don't need to chase sleep. It's already found you, in the quiet courage of candlelit cafés, and in the memory of a brew too bold to be banned. Good night.